I believed the castle was the danger. I was wrong. The castle was only the gate. The real nightmare waited beyond its walls, in the forest below. As my body lay broken among stone and thorn, I understood something too late. Some places do not let you leave. They simply change the way they hunt you. The world returned in a single, shattering instant, a spike of pure agony driven through the heart of oblivion. It was not waking. It was resurrection into pain. Every nerve ending shrieked, a chorus of fire and rupture. My body was a foreign country, a map of disasters written in broken bones and screaming sinew. I could not command it. I could only inhabit its ruin. The cold of the earth was a second skin, pressing its damp, unforgiving truth against my cheek. My fingers curled like dead things, clutched not soil, but a wet, black paste. I realized it was earth and blood, my blood mingled into a primordial mud. Above me, the sky was a bruised purple, the last stars fading like distant, indifferent witnesses. And against that fading light, it stood. The castle. It did not silhouette. It devoured the horizon. Its spires were not stone, but solidified shadow. Its windows glowed with a faint, sickly luminescence, the color of old bone held before a weak flame. They were not lit from within. They were watchful. They were eyes that had already seen my story written in its final bloody punctuation, and now observed me merely tracing the letters with my own struggling breath. With a groan that tore from a place deeper than my lungs, I moved, an inch, a scraping, shuddering betrayal of my own flesh. Thorns, cruel and deliberate, had woven my coat to the ground, as if the very earth sought to keep me as an offering. I ripped free, the fabric tearing like a scream. The forest ahead was a wall of darkness. The castle at my back was a silent judge. There was no choice. There was only the terrible, gravitational pull away from the heights. I crawled. I left a trail of disturbed earth and despair. I did not look back. I knew it was watching. The tree line was not an entrance, but a swallowing. The air changed the moment I passed the first gnarled trunk. The cold became deeper, wetter, a cold that clung to the back of the throat and seeped into the soul. And the trees, they were wrong. An abomination of geometry. They stood too straight, too close, like the bars of a colossal cage grown from poisoned soil. Their bark was slick, not with moss, but with a strange phosphorescent fungus that pulsed with a faint greenish light the color of a deep bruise. No birds called, no insects hummed. The silence was a physical pressure, a velvet suffocation. I used a low, skeletal branch to haul myself upright. The world swam, a nauseating carousel of pain and vertigo. My legs trembled, not with fatigue, but with a fundamental refusal of their own purpose. That was when I heard it, the sound that froze the blood in my veins. Crunch. Not a branch snapping under a deer's hoof. This was a slow, deliberate compression. A weight. A step. Crunch. Another. To my left. Measured. Unhurried. I turned, my heart a frantic bird against my ribs. Nothing but the endless, identical trunks receding into the mist-shrouded gloom. Crunch. Closer now. From the right. I stumbled forward, my breath coming in ragged, sobbing gasps that seemed obscenely loud in the silence. The forest floor was a treacherous tapestry of hidden roots and sudden hollows. I fell, my knees plunging into the cold mulch. As I pushed myself up, my hand landed on something smooth and cold amidst the rot. A boot, old, leather, cracked with age. It was not empty. I recoiled, a cry dying in my throat. It was not a skeleton, not quite. It was a form, collapsed against a tree, shrouded in a cloak of decay and moss. One bony hand was outstretched, as if pointing the way I was heading. In its other, clutched to its chest, was a rusted knife. Its skull was tilted back, its jaw agape, in a final, silent scream. Eye sockets filled with glowing green fungus. This forest was not empty. It was a gallery, a catacomb, and I was now a part of its exhibition. The footsteps paused. I felt a gaze upon me, heavy as a stone on a grave. It was not coming from the corpse. It was coming from the spaces between the trees, from the deep well of shadow where the faint fungal light did not reach. I ran. I ran until my lungs were strips of burning leather, until the taste of copper filled my mouth. The landscape was a monotonous, repeating nightmare, the same slick trees, the same clutching undergrowth, the same eerie pulsing glow. Time became meaningless, measured only in heartbeats and the relentless shuffling footsteps that always seemed just behind the next tree, just beyond the edge of sight. Then, the mist changed. It thickened into a rolling white veil, deadening sound and reducing the world to a ghostly 10-foot sphere. I slowed, disoriented, my own ragged breathing the only anchor. That's when I saw the eyes. They ignited in the fog low to the ground, pairs of smoldering amber. They did not blink. They simply appeared, held. I stood paralyzed, a mouse before the serpent. Shapes resolved from the gray, wolves, but they were like no wolves from any natural world. Their fur was the color of ash and twilight, and their eyes held an intelligence that was chillingly patient. They emerged silently, a half circle of them, cutting off my path. They did not snarl. They did not lunge. They simply watched, their gazes weighing, assessing. One, larger than the rest with a coat of grizzled silver, took a single step forward. Its claws, black as obsidian, sank soundlessly into the moss. It stopped. Its great head lifted, nostrils flaring. It was not smelling me. It was listening. And from the deep, impenetrable whiteness behind me, the voice came. It did not boom or echo. It was calm, clear, and horribly intimate, as if the speaker stood just beside me, his lips brushing my ear. The forest is a maze, little rabbit, but the hunter knows every turn. You cannot outrun what has already claimed you. At the sound of the voice, the wolves did something inexplicable. They lowered their heads, not in aggression, but in a unified, unmistakable gesture of submission. The silver wolf's eyes met mine, and in that ancient yellow gaze, I saw not hunger, but a kind of pity. A scream tore from me, then not of fear, but of pure, defiant rage. I snatched up a fallen branch, a rotten club, and swung it wildly at the silver wolf. It did not flinch. The branch shattered against its shoulder like dry kindling. The message was clear. My violence was irrelevant, a dismissed trifle. So, I ran again. The wolves did not give chase. They simply watched me flee into the consuming whiteness, their amber eyes fading into the fog like dying coals. The forest began to twist. Not a metaphor, the very paths seemed to writhe and curl when I wasn't looking directly at them. I passed a lightning-blasted oak with a distinctive, grasping claw of a root. 10 minutes of blind flight later, I stumbled past it again, this time from the opposite direction. A cold, logical part of my mind shut down. Panic was no longer a reaction, it was the environment. The fog got into my head. It was a psychic damp, muffling not just sound, but thought. My memories grew slippery. My name felt like a word in a forgotten language. The sharp edges of the pain from my fall blurred into a general throbbing ache that belonged to someone else. And in the hollow spaces left behind, the whispers began. At first, they were faint, the rustle of leaves forming half-heard words. Stay, rest, close your eyes. Then they grew clearer, spoken in voices that mirrored my own internal monologue, until I could no longer tell the difference. Why do you struggle? The earth is soft. It will be a kinder bed than the one you left. He is not cruel. He is just thorough. To be chosen by him is a singular thing. You are already a ghost. You just haven't noticed the world passing through you yet. I clutched my head, grinding my palms against my temples. Stop! I mumbled, my voice a stranger's. Be silent. We are silent, the forest whispered back from within. It is you who are finally listening. I tripped over a root and went down hard, my body finally surrendering. I lay gasping beside the massive fallen corpse of an ancient tree, its trunk a rotting leviathan. Despair, thick and black as tar, filled me. This was it. This was where I would become another moss-cloaked statue, a warning that no one would ever see. As my vision cleared, swimming with tears of exhaustion, I saw them. Carvings. Not on the fallen log, but on the living trees that surrounded this small, cursed clearing. Dozens of them. Hundreds. A screaming gallery of human desperation. I crawled toward the nearest trunk. The symbol was crude, carved with what must have been a blunt stone or a fingernail worn to the quick, a spiral with a line through it. On another, it was a simple, screaming face. On another, a series of frantic hash marks. The message was not in the individual symbols, but in their collective, screaming repetition. They were a chorus of final thoughts. Turn back. He walks the paths. The night has eyes. Don't trust the light. It wears faces. My eyes scanned them, a frantic archaeology of terror. Then, on the smooth bark of a beech tree, I found words, shakily etched in what I hoped was only dark sap. I am Alaric. I made it to the edge. I saw the smoke from the village. He was waiting for me there. He smiled. He said, "Welcome home. I am going back to the castle now. It is warmer than the woods." The finality of it crushed the last vestiges of hope. This was not a forest one escaped. It was a digestive tract, a slow, patient system that broke down hope and will, leaving only compliant despair. A soft, almost melodic scraping came from behind me, the sound of a blade being slowly drawn along bark. I turned. There, on the far side of the clearing, a figure stood beside a tree, tall, impossibly thin. It was a cutout of deeper darkness against the gloom. It was not carving. Its long, pale finger simply traced the grooves of an old symbol, its touch making the rotten wood hiss softly. It wore a shape like a man, but the proportions were off, the limbs too long, the head tilted at an unnatural angle. The fog coiled around it lovingly. It did not look at me. It continued tracing the carving. "They leave such poignant messages," it said. Its voice was dry, papery, like the rustle of dead leaves. It was the same voice from the mist, yet stripped of its false intimacy, laid bare as something ancient and utterly hollow. A testament to the enduring illusion of choice. Do you have a message you wish to leave, little rabbit? Your name, perhaps? A final thought? I could not speak. My mouth was desert. It finally turned its head. It had no discernible face, just a smooth, pale oval where features should be. Yet I felt its attention like a physical weight, a spotlight of absolute cold. "No?" it mused, the word a sigh. Pity. The silent ones are always the most interesting to break. It took a step. It did not seem to walk. The space between it and the tree simply became empty, and it was a foot closer. The air temperature plummeted. "Run," it whispered, and the word was both a threat and a dreadful gift. I scrambled backward, then turned and fled, the sound of its soft, breathless laughter curling after me like a vine. I ran with the mindless, final endurance of a dying thing. The whispers were silent now. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. The only sound was the hammer of my heart and the frantic rhythm of my flight. A new light began to filter through the canopy. Not the sickly green glow, but a pale, grayish pink dawn. The trees began to change. They grew thicker, healthier. The oppressive mist thinned to mere tendrils. The fungal lights winked out. I saw a squirrel dart up a trunk. The sound of a distant bird song, thin and brave, pierced the air. A wild, impossible hope, more painful than any despair, burst in my chest. I burst from the tree line and into a sloping meadow. Below, wreathed in the gentle mist of a true morning, lay a village. Stone cottages, a winding road, a church spire. Smoke curled from chimneys. The world. The real, sunlit, human world. I stumbled down the slope, laughing and sobbing, the grass wet and real beneath my torn boots. I was out. I had done the impossible. The nightmare was over. I reached a low stone wall at the meadow's edge, the boundary between wilderness and sanctuary. I placed a trembling hand on the cold, rough stone. Solid. True. I turned for one last look at the forest, a final, defiant glance at the hell I had conquered. It stood at the tree line. The shadow. It was fully visible now in the growing light, though the light seemed to avoid its form, leaving it a crisp silhouette of nothing. It was not following, it was observing. One long, pale hand rested on the trunk of the last great oak. And then, from the village below, a sound floated up on the morning breeze, the clear, sweet peal of a single church bell, calling the faithful to matins. At the sound, the shadow's head tilted, and I saw, in the space where its face should be, the faintest suggestion of a curve, a smile. A cold deeper than any forest chill locked my joints. It had not lost me. It had herded me. The hunt was not finished. It had only changed locations. As if in response to my realization, I felt a gentle touch on the back of my neck. Not a hand, just a fleeting, icy presence, like the kiss of a winter wind through a cracked window. And the whisper, woven into the sound of the bell. So far from home, I do not know how I escaped the forest. I know only this. The trees let me pass. The wolves let me run. The castle let me fall. The shadow that walks never said goodbye. It did not need to, for I carry its silence with me now, into the bustling market square, past the smiling faces of baker and blacksmith. I carry the chill of its touch, beneath the warm noonday sun. I see its elongated shadow in every alleyway, hear its dry whisper in the rustle of tavern curtains. The bell in the church tower tolls the hour. I look up, and for a moment, against the bright sky, I see not a spire, but a sharp, familiar silhouette, a suggestion of stone, a promise of height. It is not over. It has just begun. And the next time the bell tolls, it will be for me. To be continued.